The roar of a jet engine over the skies of Germany in 1944 was unlike anything Allied pilots had ever heard. Faster than any piston engine fighter, sleeker than anything in the Luftwaffe arsenal, the Messerschmitt Me 262 promised to redefine aerial combat. But for all its technological marvel, its introduction came too late to change the course of the war. Yet what happened in those early missions shocked both sides and left a lasting legacy in aviation history. By 1942, the Reich Air Ministry had already recognized the need for a jet-powered fighter. Allied bombers were pounding German cities, and conventional aircraft struggled to intercept them. The Me 262, designed with twin Junkers Jumo 004 turbojet engines, could reach speeds exceeding 540 miles per hour, nearly 100 miles per hour faster than the P-51 Mustang and 200 miles per hour faster than the Spitfire. According to historical records, pilots who first trained on it called it lightning on wings, marveling at the speed and acceleration that made standard dogfighting tactics almost obsolete. Yet no one knew the full complexity behind the machine's deployment. Hitler himself had insisted the Me 262 be modified into a bomber, delaying its use as a fighter. Development setbacks, engine reliability issues, and Allied bombing raids on production facilities further slowed its entry into combat. By the time the first operational units flew sorties in mid-1944, the Allies already controlled much of the European airspace. The first combat missions of the Me 262 were flown by Jägerschwader 7, JG-7, the Luftwaffe's dedicated jet fighter wing. Imagine the scene. A small formation of jets climbing above a cloudy horizon, engines wailing in high-pitched whines, and traditional Luftwaffe fighters like the FW-190 circling below. The jets streak past incoming bomber formations, barely a blur to human eyes, firing 30 million Malawian kwaches, 108 cannons capable of obliterating AB-17 in seconds. According to pilot accounts, the Me 262 could engage and disengage at will. American bomber crews reported sudden, terrifying encounters with aircraft moving faster than anything they had trained to see. One gunner wrote, "It appeared as though the sky itself had turned against us. A shadow, a streak, and then nothing. But the machine's speed was both its advantage and its Achilles heel." Early jets suffered engine failures, and landing them on war-damaged airstrips required nerves of steel. Pilots learned quickly that a single mistake could mean fiery death. Maintenance crews worked around the clock, often under bombing threat, to keep the engines running, and fuel shortages limited operational reach. The Me 262's entry did not immediately change the air war over Europe. Tactical realities quickly became apparent. While it could outpace Allied fighters, it was vulnerable during takeoff and landing, moments when piston engine interceptors could strike. Moreover, its production numbers were low. By early 1945, only about 1,400 units were operational, scattered across multiple units and theaters. Allied intelligence had underestimated the jet threat at first. Bomber formations adjusted only slowly, but once the speed and firepower of the Me 262 became evident, tactics evolved. Escort fighters focused on patrolling Me 262 bases, attacking jets on vulnerable approaches, and flak artillery adapted to target jets in climbing phases. Yet, even with these countermeasures, a skilled Me 262 pilot could, for brief windows, dominate the skies. The Me 262's pilots were often experienced aces from earlier battles, many of whom had survived years of aerial combat. They trained in secrecy, aware that each mission might be their last. One pilot, according to historical letters, described flying over the Ruhr Valley. "The wind tore past my face, the engine screamed, and yet the ground below seemed unreal. I knew I could strike anything, but also that one error could end us all." Engineers, too, faced daily struggles. The Jumo 004 engines required precise metallurgy, and wartime shortages forced substitutions that reduced reliability. Crews often worked in freezing conditions, replacing turbine blades by hand, knowing the survival of pilots depended on their skill. The first major attack on an Allied bomber formation over Berlin stunned the Americans. Out of 100 B-17s, several were downed within minutes, the survivors struggling to comprehend the speed of the aircraft that had passed almost unseen. Messerschmitt records indicate that within weeks, bomber formations adapted by increasing escort fighters and spacing tactics, yet the psychological impact remained. Meanwhile, the jet's speed and firepower made pilots daring. Some accounts tell of Me-262s diving on bombers from altitudes higher than Allied fighters expected, firing short bursts that could decimate engines, and climbing back to safety before being engaged. For bomber crews, it was a new form of terror. Aircraft faster than anything they could target with gunners, disappearing almost as soon as it appeared. Despite its battlefield prowess, the Me-262 could not overcome the strategic realities of late-war Germany. Allied air superiority, fuel shortages, and the relentless bombing of industrial facilities meant that jets, as formidable as they were, could not be produced or deployed in sufficient numbers to change the tide. By April 1945, many Me-262s were destroyed on the ground or abandoned, their pilots either captured or killed in desperate sorties. Yet the Me-262 left a legacy far beyond its combat effectiveness. Allied engineers studied captured jets, accelerating post-war jet fighter development. Its design informed future aircraft for decades, proving that technology could reshape warfare, if only it arrived in time. The story of the Me-262 is not merely one of machines and statistics. It is a story of human ingenuity, desperation, and courage under impossible conditions. Engineers risking life and limb, pilots pushing the limits of speed and nerves, and crews witnessing an aircraft that felt almost supernatural in its capabilities. All remind us that war accelerates both technology and human endurance. The Me-262 arrived too late to change the outcome of World War II, but in its brief combat career, it shocked opponents, challenged tactics, and foreshadowed the jet age. It reminds us that even at the end of a conflict, innovation can rewrite the rules, if only for a fleeting moment.